This is a video we made with a few VIPs and experts around the world to ask for the release of international lawyer Dr. Reiner Füllmich, detained today by Germany. To give you some context, here are the main facts. Dr. Füllmich has been kidnapped, sent to prison illegally, and tortured by the German government. His crime? Exposing the fraud of the pandemic and the COVID vaccine. His trial has been clearly a perversion of justice. His work was getting a lot of attention and was about to succeed in prosecuting the criminals behind the COVID scam with his grand jury proceeding. Please make the following voices heard to release Dr. Füllmich, stop these criminals, and keep our world free. If this message speaks to you, you are the resistance.
A dangerous subversive elite has managed to infiltrate the highest levels of Western institutions and governments to implement the criminal plan of the Agenda 2030. In many self-proclaimed democratic states, the voices denouncing this global coup are being silenced through censorship, intimidation, psychiatrization, and even arrest. Among the victims of the totalitarian regime quietly establishing itself in Europe, Canada, Australia, and other vassal nations of the United Nations, NATO, World Health Organization, and World Economic Forum, all private entities funded by the same powers, is lawyer Reiner Füllmich, unjustly imprisoned and still awaiting for a fair trial. His crime is having dared to speak the truth in a world of criminal lies. I call on Catholics and all people of goodwill to raise their voices in defense of those persecuted by the globalist regime. It is not Attorney Füllmich who should be imprisoned, but those who committed the greatest crime ever against humanity: Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, George Soros, Ursula von der Leyen, Albert Bourla, and all their accomplices and emissaries, especially those in institutional positions. Free Reiner Füllmich.
And this video is in support and to call to action all leaders throughout the entire world, all government officials, all politicians, all international attorneys. I need your help, but this is on behalf of another individual who I've never physically met, but have done many depositions with and done many recordings with throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And that international attorney who needs our help and our freedom is Dr. Reiner Füllmich. Beginning in 2021, during the COVID-19 debacle, Dr. Reiner Füllmich reached out to my wife through Facebook and demanded that I, Dr. Brian Artis, do a deposition request for his international attorneys to actually outline, based on the videos and interviews he'd seen in the media, what the truth was behind the drug called remdesivir that was being pumped through all the veins of Americans in hospitals that was proven to have a 53% death rate before it was ever introduced for COVID-19. Dr. Reiner Füllmich and his international team of attorneys were, in my opinion, some of the first heroes I ever interacted with who were, on behalf of all innocent people around the world, was collecting as much information as they could to be able to hold the criminals liable and bring justice for all the peoples of the entire world who were being made slaves and bondages and being imprisoned in their own homes, called mandates and lockdowns. Literally, the governments of the world locked us all down in our homes, imprisoned us, told us we were not free to interact with our family members, not to go to church and worship. All of the senior citizens in America were actually locked in their homes and not allowed to have physical interactions with their own family members. We had to talk to them through their windows and their glass doors. Dr. Reiner Füllmich, I applaud you. I love you. I honor you. I call on all government officials throughout Europe, particularly those in Germany. I call on all international attorneys to please help free Dr. Reiner Füllmich, who, not unlike Nelson Mandela, was wrongfully imprisoned for his humanitarian efforts. Dr. Reiner Füllmich is a hero, in my opinion. And if you haven't seen the depositions and the collection of attorneys he alone assembled to hold grand jury testimonies, which you can go online and watch, I call on everybody around the world to call on everyone to help free this man.
I'm a British-based funeral director. I've been very vocal over the last 4 or 5 years about the damage and the death and the misery and the white clots that are killing people that have been caused by the COVID vaccines. I spoke at Reiner Füllmich's grand jury, and I support every bit of work that he's done. Totally. The fact that this man is in prison is a crime. He's a political prisoner. The elite and the governments are all very well aware of Agenda 2030 and what's been going on. And I hope that they will release this guy soon, because it's indefensible what they've done to him. And free Reiner Füllmich.
My name is Greg Reese. I am the producer of the Reese Report, and I've done a handful of video reports on Reiner Füllmich, starting with, I believe it was called Nuremberg 2 was the first video I did. A lot of people were calling it Nuremberg 2 at the time, and I went with it. I've since kind of regretted it, because Nuremberg 1 was a show. There was really no justice. Thousands of war criminals were just outsourced and given jobs in other countries, specifically, mostly the United States. And I think what we want is justice. I believe that's what Reiner Füllmich wanted, was justice. A lot of us are not willing to memory hole the biggest crime against humanity in all of recorded history. The most conservative numbers are saying 20 million people were murdered by that shot, and countless others are still carrying it in their bloodstream. So thank you, and much love and respect to all of you who are not willing to let this go. Much love and respect to Reiner Füllmich, who stood up and did the right thing. Reiner did what every one of us should do. Reiner just happened to be in a position with his profession and his skills that he focused in that area. And it doesn't matter what you do. We all have at least a voice, and we can at least open our mouths and say what's right and talk about, that, coercing the entire population into taking an experimental gene therapy drug under false pretenses is something that should be spoken about, at the very minimum. So yes, free Reiner Füllmich, absolutely free Reiner Füllmich. I understand why they persecuted him, but I mean, honestly, look, everyone's already willing to forget about it. No one is seeing justice. Free Reiner Füllmich, let him be with his family.
I'm Dexter Reineveld, a South African lawyer who worked with Reiner Füllmich in 2021, 2022, along with several other international lawyers. It is with great disappointment that I have noted how the criminal trial against Reiner has been conducted and how the German criminal code, company law, and constitution has been circumvented to ensure an unsubstantiated guilty verdict. Prior to the commencement of Reiner's trial, a senior German prosecutor rightfully concluded that Reiner has not committed any criminal offense and that there was no prima facie evidence to pursue any criminal proceedings against him. It is thus my sincere hope that justice will prevail and Reiner be vindicated in the German appeals court, and that his constitutional right to liberty will be restored. One can only hope that the appeals court will consider the merits of his case and take into account the evidence as a whole in an unbiased, impartial manner and validate the clear, legitimate grounds of appeal. Free Reiner Füllmich.
Reiner has been a friend to the health freedom movement and to Children's Health Defense. We are so saddened for Reiner and his family and for Germany and the world that he is effectively a political prisoner in Germany. It is an abomination. It is an insult to the justice system. He has been treated in inhumane ways, as have others in Germany. And we are watching, and we are deeply concerned. And I hope that he remembers that he has many friends around the world, and that we are rooting for him, and we are rooting for justice.
It is outrageous, absolutely outrageous and infuriating that Reiner Füllmich was essentially kidnapped by the German government and has been held for, I think it's 18 months at this point, 20 months behind bars. I've been following how the judge is really not allowing him even to put on a good defense, and really the facts that I know of the case are outrageous. And I know Reiner, there's no chance that this is legitimate. Reiner is a hero. He stood up during the terrible COVID years and said, we're going to have accountability. Clearly, he made a lot of enemies. Free Reiner Füllmich now. Free Reiner Füllmich now.
I practiced law for 20 years. I've been a legal strategist for many years since. I know Reiner Füllmich personally. He's a man who is committed to integrity, to truth, to freedom, to the proper application of law. I am a strong supporter of Reiner. I admire what he has done. I admire his fight for humanity. I admire his great commitment to ensuring that people do not lose their inalienable rights, their rights to freedom. Reiner is in jail unlawfully. I call out now, free Reiner Füllmich.
So Reiner Füllmich is a good friend. He's a free man. He's a man of God who is full of courage. He is a Samaritan. When many people were afraid and silent, he took action with a full of courage. Courage never should be punished. So Reiner Füllmich, he's in the jail, not because he made something wrong, but because he made something right. So during the pandemic, he saw not only the health problem, but particularly the human rights problem, because he put human rights first. And also he saw to the world the fear as part of the plan of the globalist. So with another word, Reiner Füllmich is a hero, and he deserves from us full respect. Thank you.
It's a true honor and a privilege to talk about Dr. Reiner Füllmich and why he deserves to be free. He is a man of great courage, integrity, and strength. I had the chance to meet him, discover him during the pandemic years when the world was caught in confusion, fear, manipulation, and it struck me that Reiner chose to stand up, and he defended truth, justice, and the rights of ordinary people, not for profit, not for fame. He did it because he felt it was the right thing to do. Later on, I had the chance to meet Reiner in person with his wife, and I'm so sad that for all the things, the good things that he did, he is now in prison, persecuted by the very system he tried to question. The good thing is that he is not alone. Especially, it's important that he has his loving wife supportive of him, as the wife of a man who is also politically persecuted, I know how important that is. I know what it costs. We pray that God, in his perfect justice, will bring truth, light, and freedom to Reiner, because he belongs to his family, to his people, and back in the world he tried to protect. He must be set free.
I have worked extensively with Reiner Füllmich since 2020, when I started my first complaint against the governor of New Mexico and the health secretary for their illegal mandates. Reiner and I worked together with the international group of attorneys in the grand jury enactment. Reiner knew that this was a spiritual battle and that we are the watchmen on the wall, as described by Ezekiel 33. And that is that those of us who have the knowledge of the dangers are obligated to sound the alarm for those who do not know. And that's exactly what Reiner did. Reiner is a truth teller, and he is someone who is very loving and comes from the heart, and he is now a political prisoner because he dared to come up against the government false narrative. What I want to say about Reiner is that we need Reiner back, telling the truth, because these people will not be stopped, and there's still more warning to do. I'm reminded of the statement that the German Lutheran pastor said concerning the Nazis and World War II. And he said, "First they came for the socialist, but I am not a socialist, so I said nothing. Then they came for the Jews, but I am not a Jew, so I said nothing. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak." And that's exactly what has happened here. If we do not speak out for Reiner, a powerful, charismatic man who was known in many, many countries across the world, if we don't speak out for him, who is going to come when they come for us? Who is going to speak out? So I urge you to free Reiner now.
Hello, I just wanted to add my voice in support of Dr. Reiner Füllmich. I think he should be released immediately. The charges which have been brought against him are essentially trumped up. He's done nothing wrong, and he should be released immediately. I was shocked to hear about his case and the treatment he's been subjected to, which seemed to be more appropriate for something from the 1940s in the Second World War, rather than this happening in a country which is supposed to respect human rights. I think it shows that what he uncovered is vitally important, and this criminal network has acted against him to silence his voice. So he needs to be released immediately, and those that brought the charges against him need to be investigated, and those that have carried on this case against him also need to be investigated. Release him immediately. Thank you.
I reported here from Australia what happened the last 5-6 years, and I had a few interviews with Reiner, and I followed the case, and I think it's such a corruption is such a crime against Reiner as well, and I really hope that justice will prevail. But unfortunately, it looks like it doesn't. So here's that 1-minute video. All the best to Reiner, and I hope they free him and pardon him, or whatever some politicians can do. And all the best then.
Ever since I was interviewed by Reiner Füllmich in June 2023, I have been struck by his intellectual acumen in grasping sometimes very complex technical scientific issues. His words and writings reveal to me a man moved only by courage and the firm determination to unmask what he called the greatest crime against humanity. The action perpetrated by the German judicial authorities against Reiner is patently inhumane and deeply shameful, an action that we believed to be confined to the past century. Free Reiner Füllmich.
I'm a lawyer from Australia, and I was the first in my country to be interviewed by Dr. Reiner Füllmich. I was also the first lawyer to challenge the oppressive nature of the COVID-19 injection mandates and to question their legal validity, given these injections were declared part of a global clinical trial, while political parties, media and so-called experts claimed they were safe and effective, and in the same breath saying they weren't understood. Back in 2020, I stood alongside Reiner with fellow lawyers from the USA, South Africa, France, New Zealand and Canada, alongside with courageous doctors and scientists from around the world. We supported his calls for Nuremberg-style investigations, not for vengeance, but as a lawful reckoning for global harm. Reiner gave voice to the silenced. He exposed censorship, political interference and the suppression of science. His arrest and extradition were not about justice. They were state-sponsored targeting of a man who dared to seek the truth. We oppose any punitive action taken against Reiner Füllmich. He must be released immediately because telling the truth is not a crime. But as we have learned, truth is knowledge and it's being held back by power. Let's free Reiner Füllmich and let's free him now.
I would like to share a well-researched opinion held by myself and many others who have studied this matter. It is that your own Robert Koch Institute files reveal how the now former RKI president Lothar Wieler, along with Professor Christian Drosten and Federal Health Minister Jens Spahn, conspired to deceive both the German public and your elected officials. Together, they orchestrated grave violations of science, ethics, and human rights, causing widespread death and suffering through the COVID operation and injection campaigns, in our opinion. Dr. Reiner Füllmich should not be in prison. He is your hero. He is our hero. He has exposed in abundant detail COVID crimes committed against you. You are not alone. We face this around the world. Please help liberate Dr. Reiner Füllmich and restore justice, human rights, your health, and the rule of law. Thank you.
Dear Reiner, the world sees your videos, hears your encouraging messages, perceives your incredible strength despite the constant beleaguering and pressure from the criminal Western system. In your position as a political prisoner, having been treated with and suffered under white tyranny, you are standing up with courage and hope. Confronting evil is just so powerful that people around the world must take conscience and not only support you spiritually and morally, but themselves they must be waking up and see the light. With you, we are confident that justice, humanity-based justice, will prevail and that those who have since the turn of the century, and especially in the last 5 years, abundant national and international laws, imposing an elite-made rules-based order, will be brought to justice. Light will prevail over darkness, and what you have done and are doing bring about these tremendous changes that the world population is seeking. Your strength and your words of reason are simply invaluable. We, the community of communities, and me in particular, are forever grateful to you. Your perseverance is a guiding light for us all. Thank you, Reiner. May your freedom come soon, so you may unite again with your wife Inka and with your loved ones. With the big, big hug and an appeal to German justice and to the justice of the world. Free Reiner.
I'm honored to say a few words of support about Dr. Reiner Füllmich, whom I consider an exceptional and excellent individual. Reiner and I met during COVID-19 when he and a group of his friends organized a much-needed international platform that allowed us to speak freely and openly about the situation in our countries and hear from people around the world. Dr. Füllmich used to invite experts, activists, even ordinary people from all possible walks of life He listened carefully, evaluated the data presented, and coordinated the activity with clarity and composure. His aim was to organize a large democratic international public trial exposing the agenda behind COVID-19 to bring light and justice to the global turmoil. In my eyes, Reiner Füllmich belongs among the very few individuals able to stand up for the disadvantaged and suppressed, even when the circumstances were tough and unpredictable. Reiner was always brave, sincere, generous, attentive, and empathetic, which are rare and much valued qualities in a man. Last Christmas, I sent Reiner Füllmich a card to the jail in Germany he was detained in at that time, saying, among other greetings, that it was my greatest pleasure and honor to send my most heartfelt wishes to the next president of Germany. Reiner, I'm so proud of you. We all went through our share of madness during the last few years, but you, as the international leader of a movement of resistance, got the largest piece of it for your exceptional courage, sharp intellect, and personal bravery, which are human qualities that will always stand out. We'll all love you, Reiner. Free Reiner Füllmich.
I have been working with my colleague Reiner Füllmich for almost 5 years now on the causes and consequences of the health crisis, particularly through the grand jury model procedure. I can testify that Reiner has truly dedicated himself to defending natural law in the interests of the common good and respect for human dignity, without ever complaining and always with great energy, courage, strength and determination. Today, no one is fooled. Everyone can deduce from his activities and contribution to the public debate that his interventions had become extremely embarrassing for the globalists who prefer the culture of death, the astonishment by fear of peoples, manipulation through lies and corruption, rather than the defense of life, truth, hope, dedication, and abnegation. They want to destroy his soul so that he stops his work, but he has already won, because he is a great inspiration to many people around the world. Stay strong, Reiner, my friend. All together, with God's help, one day we will win this war that is being waged against his creation. With this in mind, keeping him in prison is pointless. Free Reiner Füllmich.
This is a short video message to confirm my ongoing support for the German lawyer and someone I've spoken with and been interviewed by on numerous occasions, the excellent Reiner Füllmich. Reiner's a courageous lawyer who was an early warner about the dangers of the COVID jabs and the whole pandemic response. He's a very, very articulate speaker, and the German government saw him as a danger to their narrative. And he was basically abducted from Mexico and remanded in Germany on trumped-up fraud charges, which have basically collapsed. Reiner Füllmich is a political prisoner, and his continued incarceration is an affront to freedom in Europe and Germany. And I would urge Donald Trump's administration to acquaint themselves with the facts around this case and put pressure on the German government to release him as soon as possible. I hope this message gets to Reiner as some sort of encouragement, and if possible, I'd like to travel to Germany myself to visit him and to support him in person. Remember Reiner Füllmich. He's in prison for warning us of the threats, the existential threats from the pandemic response. He must not be forgotten. He must be released.
Professor Francis Boyle, one of the world's most eminent lawyers who was responsible for the passing of the US Biological Weapons Anti-Terrorism Act of 1989, published a book, Resisting Medical Tyranny, in 2022. There, he laid out in detail the criminal background behind the COVID-19 pandemic. He explained why the gene-based vaccines were purposely designed bioweapons and concluded his book with the words, "Every citizen of the world community has both the right and the duty to oppose these modern-day Nazis and their Nazi COVID-19 crimes against humanity." That was what Reiner Füllmich was successfully doing, and that was why they removed him. Fellow citizens of the world community, it is now our duty to stand up and call out together, "Free Reiner Füllmich."
Reiner became a lawyer, and not just a lawyer, head of a law firm that had at one point, I think, 23 employees. And he used it for justice. They took on Deutsche Bank, they took on Volkswagen, and they won, usually in the lower courts, often overturned in the higher courts. But that intense, passionate quest for justice. He almost sat out COVID, or at the beginning, he almost didn't take it on, but was nudged by his sweet and gentle wife, Inka. I think you'd better take a look. He did. Presto, the Corona Committee, because when he took it on, he really took it on. And he had a twofold strategy. Brilliant. In other words, he had a legal strategy that he wanted to take to the courts. The PCR tests, incredibly weak, couldn't diagnose anything. It was an open and closed case, and he had all the facts. But for the rest of us, one video on the PCR test would have done it. But to really understand it, week after week, the Corona Committee, economists, psychologists, all kinds of people looking at the future, looking at patents, really informing us, and himself, because there was so much he discovered, so that by the end, I mean, when he got arrested, the world that he was looking at was really different from the world that he started with. Because as he told me in September 23, a month before his arrest, if he had said the things in 2020 that he was saying in 2023, and he had heard himself, he would have said, lock that guy up and give him meds, because he had learned so much about the way the world worked. And that's something else about him. He's a learner. He's passionate. He's intelligent. He's also warm and caring. And he is not a quitter. Absolutely not. That it's hard for him to see evil around him, people who mean him harm. The Corona Committee, riding high, interview after interview. Vivian tricked him into not appearing. And in that non-appearance, she denounced him. And basically, he got thrown out of the Corona Committee. But he's not a quitter. He went on to ICIC. He went on to more interviews. He left the US, went back to the US, couldn't get in. Visa denied after 25 years. He's not a quitter. He was in Mexico. He went on. He sold his house in Germany. Everything is supposed to be, money for repaying loans and all kinds of, lots of money for him as well. Co-worker who was supposed to deposit it into Reiner's account, deposited it into his own account. He's not a quitter. He went on. Eventually, there was a kidnapping from Mexico. Reiner is not a quitter, even arrested. He was not broken. He was going to take this on, and he has taken it on. The prison conditions were far from ideal, with perhaps the worst of it having had someone psychotic in the cell next to him for several weeks, screaming night and day. That was almost too much, because he's human. He's got physical limits. But still, his thing was, they are not going to break me. That is not going to happen. And it has not happened. And he hasn't quit yet. He's doing what he can, sending out the messages he can, connecting with people all he can. He gets bagfuls of mail every week. He's a warm and caring person. And I know that also because when I contacted him a couple of times, he said yes to an interview. And that's why I'm doing this, because I connected with him that way. And from that, ended up posting about him right from the moment of his arrest. It's like he's really good at getting people to play on his team with him. I think the message from all of us is free Reiner Füllmich.
Dr. Reiner Füllmich played an extremely important role in raising awareness among people all around the world as part of the resistance movement in collaboration with the Corona Committee, Corona Ausschuss, which was founded in July the 10th, 2020. Perhaps even the most important role, at least in Europe, I would say. Through numerous interviews with guests from diverse fields and professions, he revealed and disclosed critical information and provided insight into the behind-the-scenes events surrounding the coronavirus pandemic and beyond. He understood that recognizing and understanding the enemy was the only path to defeat it. Tirelessly, he sought legal avenues, encouraging judges to hear the other side of the story too. As he always emphasized, adiatur et altera pars. Let the other side be heard too. Unfortunately, they refused to listen. In response, he organized the Tribunal in 2022, an initiative I was proud to assist with. The staged court featured plaintiffs, lawyers, judges, defendants, and experts, and together we presented extensive evidence demonstrating that the crisis was a fabricated pandemic rather than a deadly pandemic. We showed how the global event brought the world to a standstill and subjected millions of people to unspeakable terror and violence, trampling on human rights, freedoms, and our dignity. The entire process was also translated in our language. Through his presence, clarity of thought, and ability to quickly grasp and connect ideas, Dr. Füllmich inspired hope and optimism during these dark times. By exposing systemic fraud, he reassured people that their inner doubts were justified and encouraged them to persist. For this, we are deeply grateful to him. Free Dr. Reiner Füllmich.
I've known Reiner now for almost 5 years, and unfortunately I've missed his company for the last couple of years. He was a pioneer, and he is in jail because of his courage, for his ability to speak the truth, and better yet, to facilitate others speaking the truth, sharing our knowledge. For those of us that are connected through consciousness, a spirituality, in other words, connected through God, he gave a platform to people so that everybody could understand the paradigm, so that we could stop the shots, so that we could stop the attack on humanity, because he is, the essence. He is the mighty, noble warrior of God. He is the watchman on the wall. And he's dangerous because he is making it possible for people in Germany, around the world, to see the illusion of choice. For speaking his mind, agents of Germany nabbed him in Mexico, secreted him away to Germany. Nobody knew where he was, including his wife, who also got arrested, by the way, because they represent something dangerous. And that danger is an idea that humanity can be free, an idea that humanity can survive, that humanity has a choice of free will, a God-given right to choose our own destiny. So, Reiner, I love you, brother, and I want to see you out of jail. And those who are guarding you must understand that it is their futures, it is their children's future in jeopardy, because if they're willing to lock you up, they're willing to lock all of us up. Will they lock up their own kids? Will they lock up their own mothers? If you haven't asked that question, I hope people outside will. Everybody needs to understand this. If you're part of the problem, if you're in law enforcement, if you're in government, and you are persecuting people for an idea, you're next. Remember what happened in 1937 with Hitler. You're repeating history again. Reiner Füllmich, God bless you, brother. I'm with you. We are all with you. We'll stand together forever.
This is Paul Craig Roberts, formerly Assistant Secretary of the United States Treasury, speaking in support of the human rights attorney, Reiner Füllmich. Evidence presented to me indicates that Füllmich was kidnapped by the German government, imprisoned first, and then tried and convicted on false embezzlement charges in a corrupt government court that prevented exculpatory evidence from being presented at his trial. The result prevented Füllmich from developing a lawsuit against governments and pharmaceutical companies for deceiving the public about COVID and the dangers of the COVID vaccine. The behavior of the German court is a great stain on the reputation of Germany and on justice in Europe.
I've been covering the dark underbelly of what we call science, medicine, and public health for over 35 years. I've published over 40 articles about Reiner's case since he was apprehended with his wife Inca in Mexico through to his sentencing. And I have never seen anything so infuriating, so incomprehensible, so Kafkaesque. I think we should stop pretending this is a legal case. Reiner is a political prisoner, or prisoner of conscience, to use Amnesty International's term, and that is what we must accept at face value. He's in good company, joins the likes of Václav Havel, Vladimir Bukovsky, Andrei Sakharov, Irina Ratuchinskaya, and so many more, who were chosen, as I believe Reiner was, for the very qualities of being unbreakable and incorruptible. We have this phrase, free Reiner Füllmich, and I reflected on it these last few days, and this is what came to me. Reiner will walk out of that prison one day in the not too distant future, and he will be free. But those who did this to him, those he counted on as colleagues, friends, and fellow warriors who betrayed him so terribly to serve the system, or whatever their motivations may have been, they will never be free. They will never be free. So Reiner, to you, I want to say, stay strong. Just get through this. And if I may make a request, a suggestion, please start to write your story, even if it's one sentence a day. It would be an absolutely historic text, and I believe very healing for you. You are missed, you are loved. I am honored to know you, and also to know your incredibly brave attorney, Katja Vermer, who is also being put through sheer hell. For those who don't know, just like you, she's handling it with incredible grace. Stay strong, Reiner, and let's all just count the days until this nightmare is over and you are free.
Like thousands of people around the world, I'm deeply troubled by Reiner Füllmich's incarceration. In my opinion, Reiner's in prison because he dared to investigate the inconsistencies and corruption in the official COVID-19 narrative. In the years of gathering testimony from scientists, doctors, and experts around the world, Reiner asked the hard questions, the ones that many were afraid to ask. And his early statements and investigations gave me courage to seek the truth too. Now, instead of being recognized for countering COVID corruption, he's behind bars. Alarm bells should definitely be ringing. This isn't about Reiner. This is about the freedom of speech for all of us people. And it's about our right to question those in power and hold them to account. If we stay silent, while people like Reiner Füllmich are punished for speaking out, we send a dangerous message to corrupt authorities that we can be made complicit in grave injustices. Let's rather send a better message. We stand up for truth and justice. There's a better way. Stand with Reiner and let's get him home. Thank you.
Reiner Füllmich stood for what many would not. In a world that punishes coherence and rewards compliance, Reiner chose the harder road because justice runs in his blood. His father searched for truth in a broken system. His grandfather survived exiled imprisonment. 3 generations of men, each confronting the injustice of empire in a different form. Reiner stood trial not to be heard, but to be silenced. The evidence of his innocence was there, but the system built on suppression refused to see. A distortion of justice disguised as due process. This isn't about just one man behind bars. It's about the silence that follows when that happens. It echoes through generations. When we speak for him, we speak for all truths the empire tried to bury in plain sight. When we speak for him, we speak for every voice that was silenced by the machinery of fear, and every heart that still dares to pulse with truth. Free Reiner Füllmich.
Brave, capable, generous, and determined. We're speaking of Dr. Reiner Füllmich, a German lawyer who has been unjustly imprisoned as if he were a criminal. Yes, he is a dissident, but that does not justify taking away his freedom. Isn't being a non-violent dissident one of the fundamental rights in a democratic regime? Or must we conclude that we are living under a totalitarian system, one that treats dissidents as political prisoners? Dear Reiner, thank you so much for everything you have done in the pursuit of truth and, not least, for the freedom of each and every one of us. In return, we do our best to support you by sharing your story with the world and keeping a place for you in our hearts so that you may feel our closeness. A big virtual hug. Free Reiner Füllmich.
Liebe Freunde der Wahrheit, mein Name ist Dr. Christina Baum. Ich bin Zahnärztin und Mitglied im Deutschen Bundestag in Berlin. Dort bin ich im Gesundheitsausschuss. Und ich war von Anfang an eine große Kritikerin der Corona-Maßnahmen und insbesondere der mRNA-Injektion, genau wie Reiner Füllmich. Deshalb habe ich auch den Corona-Untersuchungsausschuss, den er geleitet hat, intensiv verfolgt. Und ich bin sicher, dass er mit seiner Aufklärung viele Menschen vor gesundheitlichen Schäden und vielleicht sogar vor dem Tod bewahrt hat. Dafür bin ich ihm unendlich dankbar. Ich habe ihn 2-mal im Gefängnis besucht und ich war erstaunt, mit welcher Kraft, mit welcher Stärke er diese Situation gemeistert hat. Für mich ist Reiner Füllmich ein politischer Gefangener und deshalb fordere ich ganz deutlich: Free Reiner Füllmich.
The whole world knows that the case against Dr. Reiner Füllmich is completely false. It is politically motivated. A desperate attempt to silence his powerful voice of truth that is exposing some of the worst crimes against humanity in the history of this world. My name is David Sorensen from the international platform StopWorldControl.com. I work with world-leading scientists, experts, politicians, and good people from every field of human society to end this reign of evil around the world that has been terrorizing humanity for way too long. I am calling all who are responsible for the illegitimate detainment of Dr. Füllmich to rethink their train of action and consider the fact that when justice is served, it's going to be very, very fierce. So be wise and do what is right. Free Reiner Füllmich.
You have not been forgotten. You provide a beacon of courage, strength, and moral fortitude to those who oppose the evil, tyranny, and deceit that pervade our world. We continue the fight, inspired by people like you. You've been subjected to a legal process, that's in quotes, that I would describe or could describe with a string of pejoratives. I believe you've been targeted not only because of your effective action opposing the COVID 1984 coup and deadly vax deployment, but also your earlier wins in exposing corruption within such iconic system corporations as Volkswagen and Deutsche Bank. Your incarceration on a spurious charge following an unlawful kidnapping by German authorities, in quotes, show that you were right over the target. You can take great pride in this and wear what you are enduring as a badge of honour. Best wishes, Reiner, and keep standing strong. You are one of the finest warriors on the right side in this spiritual battle of good versus evil.
Unfrei macht uns vieles, angefangen vom Hunger und Durst bis zu den politischen Verhältnissen. Wenn wir aber das, was uns nötigt, mit Bewusstsein durchdringen, zieht Freiheit in unsere Seele ein. Wir heben uns innerlich aus der Nötigung heraus und machen uns für dasjenige, dessen wir uns bewusst sind, frei. Genau dieses Bewusst- und Freimachen fürchten die Handlungsmächtigen dieser Welt, denn es entzaubert ihre Gewalt und damit sie selbst. Mit ihrer Propaganda konnten sie dieses Bewusstwerden bei vielen Menschen verhindern, doch nicht bei allen und schon gar nicht bei dem so verdienstvollen Aufklärer des Corona-Verbrechens, Dr. Reiner Füllmich. Free Reiner Füllmich.
I was privileged to speak to Reiner not long after the vaccine rollout started, and I recognised him as a fellow freedom fighter and somebody who wanted to try and shed some insight into what was going on, because we knew something was wrong, but we didn't really know what. And Reiner made it his mission to find people from around the world who could tell us exactly what was going on. In legal terms, in scientific terms, journalists who were researching what was going on, and from lay people too. So I'm tremendously grateful to Reiner for that, and incredibly sad that he finds himself in prison. He's a political prisoner as far as I can see, and there's only one thing to add: free Reiner Füllmich.
At the time when we were being restricted and we couldn't speak, and we were being threatened that we would be put in jail, we got the opportunity to appear in front of the grand jury investigation to present the case of Vanuatu, and knowing that the same strict restrictions that were being applied around the world were also being applied here in the Republic of Vanuatu. He provided the avenue for us to be able to have our voices heard. And we were looking forward to us continuing to work together to be able to present a class action suit to fight against the spirit of Nazism that was basically taking over the whole world. And we all know that there was absolute oppression, and he was a beacon of hope for us. He was the very important salt of the earth for us. And we are calling on everybody to pray for him, that he will be in good spirits, that he will be strong and healthy, and that we will be able to argue in the appropriate places for him to be released from jail, because the situation was that the whole world was being put into oppression. and we were all standing together to fight for freedom, which we are now enjoying while he is in jail. And this is unjust. It is an absolute necessity that we get Reiner Füllmich out of jail, and that he is also able to enjoy freedoms, and that we are able to put these cases into the courts of law so that the courts of law can decide whether or not the oppression that we all suffered had any scientific basis. And my prayer is that he is going to be released as soon as possible.
Sukarit Bhakti, C.J. Hopkins, Vera Sharav, Johanna Fintheisen, Arno von Kessel, Reiner Füllmich. Your name here. Doesn't matter if you agree with them, doesn't matter if you like them. What matters is the cruelly captured courts, judges, attorneys, and other bribed, blackmailed, and threatened colluders in the criminal injustice system have weaponized the law to silence dissidents. You're not a dissident, so it's okay? Today's compliant citizen is tomorrow's thought criminal when the state recalculates 2 + 2 daily. Unless you stand up for everyone's right to speak freely, you too will be in the crosshairs the instant you think out of line. Free Reiner Füllmich.
Since early 2020, I have publicly expressed in many forums my firm professional opinion that the COVID lockdowns inflicted extreme costs on society for paltry benefits. One of these forums was an online interview hosted by Reiner Füllmich sometime in 2021. I know Füllmich faces claims of embezzlement whose veracity I am unable to ascertain. What I do know is that since 2021, Reiner Füllmich's actions have helped disseminate non-mainstream views of the COVID response, including the view I agree with that many authority figures during COVID times did not act in the best interests of the populations over whom they had authority. Questioning authority has historically been dangerous, and the severity of the treatment Füllmich is receiving at the hands of the German government is disproportionate to the severity of what he is formally accused of. The circumstances strongly suggest a political motivation for his arrest and prolonged detention. What he is experiencing is unacceptable in the Free West. Free Reiner Füllmich.
It was during those dark times that this world-renowned lawyer, Reiner Füllmich, came up and started to speak on behalf of the voices that were silenced during that time. He came up and as a beacon of light, because he started a journey with his team and was interviewing leaders, was interviewing medical practitioners, top scientists. He was engaging them in the grand jury process that would eventually expose all the corruption and all the evil plans by these evil organizations that were trying to destroy the lives of humanity. Reiner Füllmich and his team invited us, and we started talking in the grand jury, and we told them the truth about what was happening in our country, Vanuatu, as well as we saw what was happening in the other countries around the world. I want to call on the international community, governments and leaders to demand, to call, to intervene and free up Dr. Reiner Füllmich.
I'm here to speak about attorney Dr. Reiner Füllmich. He is one of the greatest heroes of our time. He was among the first of leading experts to speak out against the COVID-19 vaccines and against the PCR swabs. He exposed their fallacy, and he exposed them as the great poisoning of humanity, led by governments, military, and pharmaceutical companies. Reiner Füllmich shared with me that he knew he was going to be targeted, so he set about to secure his assets in a way that is perfectly legal and normal in any business or humanitarian venture. I have a background in corporate finance. I worked in the field for 10 years and was trained in upper-level business management. I know that what Dr. Reiner Füllmich did is perfectly legal under international business law. Unfortunately, governments don't always respect or adhere to our international laws, and so they have show-trialed him to try to silence him. They are politically persecuting him. He's been betrayed. He's been framed. He did nothing wrong. He is a hero, and we need him. He needs us. So please get behind the campaign to free Dr. Reiner Füllmich.
The weaponization of the law to suppress dissidents is an age-old tactic across not only decades, but centuries in every part of the world. COVID-19, of course, saw an exponential increase in this insidious practice, which is why we are here to shine the spotlight and sunlight on this practice. German US citizen Dr. Reiner Füllmich is a glaring example of a diabolical agenda. In prison, Reiner's case reminds us why international solidarity matters. In fact, him being in prison has only strengthened our resolve to stand in international solidarity with each other. So we're gathered here today not only in support of one man, but in defense of a principle that is under grave attack, the rule of law itself. Reiner Füllmich, of course, an esteemed attorney, a courageous voice for human rights, and a defender of civil liberties, has been unjustly detained, stripped of his freedom for doing what every principled lawyer, activist, and person ought to do, to speak truth to power. His incarceration is not only unlawful, it is profoundly political. Reiner Füllmich is a political prisoner, and there have been parallels drawn between his case and Julian Assange. His crime is nothing more than challenging narratives that governments and powerful corporations would prefer remain unchallenged. He has dared to investigate, to question, and to hold institutions accountable, especially during times when obedience was demanded, not justice. And for that, he is being silenced. This is not about left or right. It is about right and wrong. When due process is tossed aside, when legal systems are weaponized against dissent, when transparency is buried under bureaucracy, then no one is safe. Today, it's Reiner. Tomorrow, it could be any one of us. But let me be clear, we will not be intimidated. We will not be silent. We stand firm in the face of oppression because the cause is greater than one man. It is about the future of free speech, of lawful dissent, and of the people's right to question power. Reiner Füllmich's detention is a warning, but it is also a call to every lawyer, every activist, and every citizen with a conscience. Stand up for justice, stand up for due process, stand up for those who dare to speak when silence is more convenient. We demand an immediate and independent review of the legal proceedings surrounding Dr. Füllmich's incarceration. We demand transparency, and ultimately we demand his release, because no democracy can survive without the voices of the brave, and no injustice can withstand the persistence of the people. So Reiner, if you can hear us, we are with you, and we will not stop until you are free.
Reiner Füllmich is a lawyer who has been jailed for the crime of exposing COVID-19 as a scamdemic designed to transfer wealth from everyday citizens into the pockets of the predatory billionaires who seek to run and own the world. So far, $5 trillion has been taken from we the people, and the fraud continues. The measures being deployed to protect this theft of wealth are getting more desperate and obvious, extending to the parliament and the public service, and increasingly to the legal profession. Reiner's prosecution is only because he was using the legal system to expose the fraud, human rights violations, wrongful death, and criminal damage to the health of billions of citizens worldwide. One nation has been the victim of lawfare, with our leader, Senator Pauline Hanson, being imprisoned on trumped-up charges for the crime of threatening the power of the same cabal of predatory billionaires. Pauline was eventually cleared, and I'm sure with the world's eyes on Lower Saxony, the prosecution will be forced to an end. We stand with Reiner. Free Reiner Füllmich.
Thank you all very much for the loving messages you sent to Reiner. The universe created the exact people to cover all the different topics to complete the whole picture. We couldn't have asked for a better constellation. Thank you also for having trusted Philippe and I. The first time I saw Reiner conducting interviews for the Corona Committee, I felt as though I already knew him. My first thought was, if anyone can bring justice to this world, it will be him. Today, after 4.5 years, I know that my soul had at that time recognized his. I also know that he will accomplish his mission with the support of you, dear friends and experts. and us, the people of the world. Each one of us is situated exactly where we are supposed to be. The time has come. We are ready to fight back. Remember what Reiner said minutes before his sentencing: one for all for one. What Reiner had to take on to protect us is invaluable. His incredible investigative work, I'm sure, has saved many lives. Reiner is not the only political prisoner in Germany. To this day, there are also other heroes who are in jail because they did the good of the people. They have lost everything: their jobs, their medical licenses, their homes, their pensions, their money, and in some cases, even their families. We, the people of the world, need to be their voice. We have to support all the political prisoners in Germany and in other countries. They stood up for us, we now need to stand up for them. They saved many lives, we now need to save their lives by supporting them morally and financially. We live in an upside-down world where good people are locked up in jail and criminals are free. However, the monsters and their puppets are being exposed massively, and the only thing left for them to do is to prepare for their one-way trip to hell. That's where they belong. Reiner, you are our greatest warrior of light. Please stay strong. There are many good people who stand with you, who support you, who fight for you, and who truly love you. We'll see you very soon. Free Reiner Füllmich now. And free Dr. Heinrich Habig, Germany. Free Dr. Joanna Findeisen, Germany. Free Michael Fritsch, Germany. Free Max Eder, Germany. Free Judge Fernando Presencia, Spain. And free lawyer Arno van Kessel from the Netherlands. Thank you.